Enemy missiles destroyed 2 schools in the Pokrovsky district of the Zaporozhye region. Oleksandr Starik, the head of the Zaporozhye OVA, announced this on Telegram, Ukrinform reports. Tonight, the invader hit a school in the village of Vozdvizovka with 2 rockets. The educational institution was almost completely destroyed. Another rocket hit the local park. Private houses around were also destroyed, he wrote. In addition, a school in the village of Dobropoli was destroyed by rockets. There were no casualties. According to the GDNP in the Zaporozhye region, over the past day, the invaders fired at civilian infrastructure facilities in the area of the settlements of Zaporozhye, Sharovnoye, Belogorye, Mali Sherbaki, Huliapol, Novoy, Olgovsko, Preobrazhenka, Pavlovka, Kamyshevoka, Orkov, Zalaznikno, Stepnogorsk, Poltavka, Novodanilivka, Malinovka, Chervono, Malaya Tokmachka, Novoandriivka, Dorozhnyenka. 23 reports were received about the destruction of houses, apartments, of citizens and infrastructure as a result of shelling by Russian military personnel. The Russian defense industry is not capable of producing high-tech missiles at the pace that is spent on the war in Ukraine, so in the future the Russian Federation will face an acute shortage of long-range missile weapons. According to Ukrinform, this was reported by the British Ministry of Defence on Twitter, citing intelligence data. The UK Ministry of Defence, in particular, noted that on October 10, 2022, Russia fired more than 80 cruise missiles into Ukraine, and although dozens of them hit Kiev and other settlements, killing civilians and damaging civilian infrastructure, more than half of the missiles were shot down. Ukrainian Air Defense Forces. These attacks signal a further reduction in the arsenal of Russian long-range missiles, which is likely to limit their ability to hit the desired number of targets in the future, the UK Ministry of Defence said. The department explained that the Russian defence industry is not able to produce promising ammunition at the rate at which they are spent. As Ukrinform reported, earlier British intelligence identified the main reasons for the low effectiveness of Russian troops in Ukraine. The department explained that the Russian defense industry is not able to produce promising ammunition at the rate at which they are spent. As Ukrinform reported, earlier British intelligence identified the main reasons for the low effectiveness of Russian troops in Ukraine. In the Lugansk region, the invaders are mining roads in the direction of Svetovo and Kremenaya, and have already blown up several bridges. Serhiy Gaidai, head of the Luhansk OVA, announced this on Telegram, Ukrinform reports. The Russians are mining the entrances to Svetovo and Kremenaya. Some bridges have already been blown up by the invaders, Gaidai wrote. According to him, the Russian military is deploying a large number of personnel and equipment to these areas. The invaders try to settle in private houses and do not stay there for a long time, as they are afraid of attacks on them. As Ukrinform reported, according to Gaidai, Russian troops are destroying by shelling all large buildings in the liberated villages of the Lugansk region so that the Ukrainian military could not settle there. The Russian invaders promised to repair a little more than 100 kilometers of roads in the temporarily occupied territories of the Lugansk region in 3 years, out of almost 6,000 kilometers available. From February 24 to October 16, the armed forces of Ukraine destroyed about 65,000 Russian invaders, which is 300 more than the day before. According to Ukrinform, the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine announced this on Facebook. Also, the defenders of Ukraine destroyed 2,529, plus 5, enemy tanks, 5,193, plus 14, AFVs, 1589, plus 7, artillery mounts, 365, plus 0, MLRS, 186, plus 0, air defense systems, 268, plus 0, aircraft, helicopters, 242, plus 0, tactical UAVs, 1224, plus 14, cruise missiles, 316, plus 0, ships/boats, 16, plus 0, cars and tankers, 3959, plus 8, special equipment, 143, plus 1. The enemy suffered the greatest losses in the Kryvyi Rog and Bakhmut directions. The data is being specified. The Security Service of Ukraine intercepted a telephone conversation of a Russian military man, in which he explains how Russian detachments work. Prisoners are shot by mobilized newcomers, and those by regular troops. According to Ukrinform, the SBU reports this on Telegram. We brought prisoners from prison. They were carried somewhere forward. And we are sitting in a detachment. If anyone comes running, we will kill. We have this, that is, we are sitting second, guarding the first, there is still a queue behind us, you won't return there either. That is, it is unrealistic to run away, they will shoot their own, complains the invader. He complains to his wife that, according to the documents, he should not be at the war at all, because according to the plan he should now be at the exercises. The guys called this committee of yours. They say we are not in Ukraine, can you imagine? We're in training. Explains the Russian military. Therefore, if the occupiers want to survive and save their lives, we advise them the only correct way is to surrender to the Ukrainian defenders, the SBU stressed. As Ukrinform reported, the Ukrainian armed forces in the east captured a large number of recently mobilized Russians. One of the invaders admits that it is better to be in prison and stay alive than to lie dead in Ukrainian soil. During the night, Russian troops shelled Nikopol, Dnipropetrovsk region, from Gradov 30 times, 6 people were injured, 2 of them were hospitalized. Deputy head of the office of the President Kyrylo Tymoshenko announced this on Telegram, Ukrinform reports. That night, the city was fired on 30 times from cannon artillery and almost 50 visits from the Grad were recorded. 6 people were injured, 2 were hospitalized, the message says. As a result of the shelling, the boiler house of the City Palace of Culture was destroyed, the Lyceum, Cafe, Market, Industrial Enterprises, and the branch of Ukroposhta were damaged. The Russians also fired at 3 9-story buildings, 21 private houses, damaged 5 power lines and many other objects. According to Tymoshenko, the relevant services, if possible, began to restore. As Ukrinform reported, enemy missiles destroyed 2 schools in the Pokhiv district of the Zaporozhye region. Over the past day, Russian troops attacked 7 settlements in the Donetsk region. There are wounded and dead civilians. According to Ukrinform, this was reported by the communications department of the Donetsk Regional Police. The Russian army attacked Avdiivka, Bakhmut, Toretsk, Konstantinovka, Chasivoy Yar, Karlovka, Orlovka. The enemy used against the civilian population MLRS, Hurricane, Grad, rockets, artillery and tanks. 20 civilian facilities were destroyed and damaged, 14 residential buildings, a kindergarten, a medical facility, the territory of a food industry enterprise, cars, a garage. Bakhmut continues to suffer from enemy artillery. During the day, the invaders shelled the city 5 times, killing and injuring civilians. As a result of enemy hits, 11 private houses were damaged. The police and the SBU opened criminal proceedings under Article 438, violation of the laws and customs of war, of the Criminal Code of Ukraine. With the help of the police, another 220 people were evacuated from the Donetsk region. Since the beginning of mandatory evacuation, more than 24,000 people, including 3,813 children, 1,326 disabled people. As Ukrinform reported, on October 15, the Russians killed 1 resident of Donetsk and wounded 3 more. According to the regional military administrations, in Ukraine, as a result of the armed aggression of the Russian Federation on October 15, 10 civilians were killed and 14 were injured. Deputy head of the office of the President Kyrylo Tymoshenko announced this on Telegram, Ukrinform reports. Ukrainian intelligence has released another interception of a telephone conversation of a Russian soldier who is near Nikolaev and complains to his wife about illness, lack of basic medicines and hopes to return home. In addition, he accuses the top military leadership of the Russian Federation of unleashing an unnecessary war and calls for an uprising against the authorities. According to Ukrinform, the press service of the main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense announced this on Telegram. According to the Russian military, the lack of antibiotics and the most primitive drugs makes it necessary to treat streptoderma with urine. Every man for himself. If someone has something, he won't give it, the military man said, adding that he couldn't go for the parcel because the swelling in his legs didn't allow him to put on shoes. In turn, the wife reports that in Russia, there is no news, everyone is silent. The Russian military considers the introduced mobilization unconstitutional and calls on society to rise up against the authorities. say thank you to our commander-in-chief, who did here, and in general this mobilization is constitutionally wrong. And in general, it is introduced when a country is being attacked, and not when a country is attacking someone. Such a bastard. How we curse him, Putin, edition. Here, I can't describe to you in words. He and his gang are all dumb-headed, which threw us here, and now we have to understand all this, what they did there, complains the invader. He also emphasizes that it is necessary to raise the public against the actions of the authorities. As Ukrinform reported, on September 21st, Russian President Vladimir Putin announced mobilization, after which activists and oppositionists began calling for protests. Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu said that 300,000 reservists would be called up as part of the partial mobilization. France will train up to 2,000 Ukrainian soldiers on its territory. This was stated in an interview with Le Parisien by French Minister of the Armed Forces Sébastien Lecornu, reports West France. These soldiers will be seconded to our units for a few weeks, Lecornu explained, stressing that the training will focus on 3 levels: general combat training, training for specific needs reported by the Ukrainians, and training on provided equipment. France will also supply Crotal air defense systems to Ukraine, Lecornu said, updating a statement made on Wednesday by President Emmanuel Macron. According to him, the number of Crotal short-range anti-aircraft systems that will be sent to Kiev is negotiated with the Ukrainians, but will be significant to allow them to protect their skies. We have 12 of them, but this is a device that should be discontinued and replaced with Mamba, air defense systems equipped with Aster missiles, with a range of up to 50 and even 100 kilometers, so this will not create a shortage. For the French army, the minister said, noting that the goal is to complete this operation in the next 2 months. Lecornu also reminded that in addition to the 18 Caesar guns already sent to Kiev, talks are underway to mobilize another 6 guns, and that France is studying the delivery of surface-to-surface missiles, such as LRU, multiple rocket launchers. In response to a Ukrainian request, the report said. As Ukrinform reported, on October 12, President Emmanuel Macron announced the delivery of radars and anti-aircraft missiles to Ukraine in the coming weeks to protect against attacks from the sky. The Ministry of Reintegration of the temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine gave advice on how to protect yourself from Shahid kamikaze drones. According to Ukrinform, the Ministry of Reintegration announced this on Telegram. Attacking enemy unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, are causing significant damage to our critical infrastructure. They also pose a considerable danger to civilians. Kamikaze drones can carry several tens of kilograms of explosives and, if hit, create a powerful shock wave. Fortunately, most of the enemy UAVs of our air defense manage to shoot down, but our own safety is above all, the message says. The Ministry of Reintegration has collected tips on how to recognize UAVs and protect yourself from these weapons. In particular, the kamikaze drone's engine is loud. When approached, a sound is heard in the air, similar to the operation of a moped or chainsaw engine. Hearing such a sound, try to get into a specially equipped shelter. Use basements, basement floors of houses, underground parking lots, crossings, or follow the 2 walls rules, the Ministry of Reintegration noted. Also, do not linger in transport. You must get out, run away from the road and find a possible shelter there. Places for shelter should be chosen away from military strategic facilities and administrative institutions. Do not hide in entrances, under arches on landings, in the basements of panel houses, near vehicles, gas stations, etc., the Ministry of Reintegration noted. As Ukrinform reported, President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky believes that the day will surely come when Ukraine will shoot down 100% of enemy missiles and drones.